Hey guys, it's me Iceberg, and today I'm reviewing the Hidizs AP30 music box, the most compact retro style player, which you can get for $75 as a super early bird, or $85 as a regular price for the plastic version, and for additional price you can get the aluminum case, which looks more solid. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it, starting with the box. Okay, so the AP30 comes in a small box with an image of the player on the front, and inside we find the player itself in a shadow black coral option, along with some cables. There is a Type-C cable for connecting as a DAC, and a USB charging cable as well. Then we have a cover case with a MagSafe, which is quite convenient for iPhone users at least. And we also have several screen protectors and a manual with a QC certification. Anyway, the AP30 is an ultra compact player with dimensions of 68 by 53 by 17mm, and to understand the size, I compare it to iPhone 60 Pro, a plastic card, and even my small hand, so you can see for yourself that it's really small device and won't bother you in any user scenarios. And talking about the color options, the AP30 is available in classic white, transparent black, and ocean blue in plastic, and also black and purple with aluminum, which doesn't look like a toyish, but it's a bit heavier, about 80 grams against 56 for plastic, which should be more durable and help with heat dissipations if you need that. So in my case I got the transparent black model or the shadow black color option, and this is more practical for me than aluminum, because first of all it's cheaper and won't pick up fingerprints or micro scratches, and a nice bonus that transparent surface gives you a great view of the inner parts, and it's pretty interesting to see how carefully everything is arranged inside. Alright, the design-wise it's easy to recognize the basic outlines of the old console, like the Nintendo Game Boy from the 90s, with its iconic tactile joystick, A and B buttons on the right side, and Hidizs even copied the two small buttons on the bottom that used to be select and start, and even the grill that worked as a speaker on the Nintendo. And in fact this device brings back wonderful nostalgic memories, returning us to that carefree and joyful childhood that I hope everyone had. So getting back to the AP30, on the front we can see a 2-inch IPS screen with a 296x230 resolution, with good color quality and viewing angles. But this screen doesn't cover the entire display area, leaving that thick bezels, which looks pretty bad nowadays. Here we also see several navigation buttons, a joystick that helps you navigate through the OC, an A button that works as forward and confirm, a B button that handles back and return, and two buttons at the bottom. The left one opens the favorites, music settings, and leaves the game, while the right one plays and pauses music, making it quite intuitive and easy to get used to. Okay, on the right side we have a volume wheel that also works as a power button when you hold it for a few seconds. And right there we have a micro SD slot supporting up to 256GB, so that should be more than enough for your FLAC library. On the back we can see the Hidizs logo, the model name, and cute whale, which means that Hidizs continues to support the WDC organization dedicated to protect marine life. And you can learn more and make your donation via the link in the description below the video. Many thanks for your support. Okay, and on the bottom we have a USB port and two outputs, a 3.5mm jack with up to 61mW output power, and a 4.4 balanced output with up to 137mW output power. That should be more than enough for practically all IEMs, unless you're using super demanding planar drivers or some crazy hybrids. Alright, in terms of functionality, the AP30 is a multifunctional device that can be used as an audio player, a USB DAC, a Bluetooth transmitter, and even e-book, but let's talk about it step by step. Firstly, the AP30 runs on a Hidizs OS, which is very easy to understand system, but here's designed in a toy-like style to match the device aesthetic. So after turning it on, we get to the main menu, where the first thing we see is the music library, where we can sort our the music by artist, album, genre, and stuff like that. Next up is a Tetris game that's super addictive and will kill your time, so be careful with that. After that is an ebook which supports books in a TXT format, but I'm not sure reading books on such small screen is a good idea, but whatever. Next, at the bottom left there is Explorer, where Audiophile are located. Next to that is a Bluetooth mode, which supports Bluetooth 5.3 wireless transmissions and using only the CBC codec and works only as a transmitter, not as a receiver or Bluetooth DAC. And the last but not the least is the setting menu, where it's especially important to set the high gain and select your preferred language. Okay, now let's move to the specs and key features, cause it's important to know not just the device look, but also what's under the hood. So the AP30 uses an energy efficient ORM Arcan Nano D main processor, and it has a single series logic CS43198 DAC, which is one of the best modern chips used in most mid and high-end DACs. And all of this is amplified by a separate RT6863 amp, delivering 61 mW on 3.5mm with an SNR on 120 and 137 mW on 4.4mm with an SNR on 127. The battery here is massive 1200 mAh with a fast charging support, giving you about 10 hours of continuous playback on a single-ended output and about 8 hours on the balanced output, but keep in mind that this may depend on your usage conditions. Of course, the AP30 supports all available audio formats, such as DSD to 56, PCM up to 24-bit, and all lossless formats. However, you should know the Bluetooth support is very limited to the standard CBC codec and only in a transmitter mode, so there is no AAC, aptX or LDAC, which is a bit bummer. So moving to my user experience and listening impressions, first of all, this is a very comfy device in terms of ergonomics, and I find it really convenient to just attach it to my MagSafe and use it essentially as a portable DAC. And it was pretty secure, so I wouldn't say the magnets seem weak here. Also, it's quite usable on the go as a music player, and it definitely won't as bulky and heavy in your pocket as the other ones. But to ensure maximum ergonomics, I would like to see a clip, like on the iPod Shuffle, to attach it to clothing. But here on the cover case we have a spot for attaching a lanyard, which is not really practical for me. Okay, sound-wise, let me clarify right away that I test the AP30 with a wide range of IEMs, from the simple single DD configurations such as CCA Phoenix or ZiiGaat Rumba, to more complex hybrids like the KiwiEars Halcyon, and even a couple of planar models like the Simgot ET142 and Hidizs MP145 Pro, using the balanced output at a high gain. And my first impressions was, this significantly expand the frequency range without making the sound too colored, and that's exactly what I expect from this DAC. I mean, this DAC doesn't lean toward the analog cube warmth of the Kane Rook 3 with ESS Saber chip, or the brightness of the EPZ TP45 Pro, and not even the cold analytical sound of the most DACs on the market right now. But rather it sounds closer to something pure and transparent, like removing that invisible veil with a neutral bias that is not about an initial wow factor, but more about the continued enjoyment without fatigue. And that's the main essence of this DAC that you need to understand. So in my testing, the first one I tried was the ZiiGaat Rumba, which in my review seemed a bit restrained, so I gave them another chance with this DAC. And as example, I chose the rock track Mariana Crossed by Ghost, and my impressions were kinda mixed. I mean, I was happy that the track became more lively and energetic, like it suddenly had a soul, and yeah, The sound finally opened up a bit, but I wasn't completely satisfied with those nasal vocals, and to be honest, that feeling of being closed in didn't go away, and the soundstage only became slightly wider. So there's definitely an improvement and the listening becomes more enjoyable, but this deck doesn't work like a magic pill to fix all the flaws of IEMs, but rather smooth out some rough edges, and you need to realize that. Next up is the KiwiEars Halcyon. This is heavyweight that can compete with any treble-head IEMs, and here it was really enjoyable listening experience for practically every single track in my playlist. So I went with Henry Come On by Lana Del Rey, where I got pure delight from her high vocals, which were so effortless and ethereal, like a wageless balloon gently touching my hand. I mean, overall it was so beautiful performed, with the vocals feeling close and intimate, complemented by the instruments playing like a blushing bud in the background. And it was precisely this case that gave me more emotions and impressions than I even got with my Fosi K7, and eventually, I'm happy with how correctly and wisely technology is moving forward and being embodied in such small devices. And the last model I tried with the AP30 is the Simgot ET142, and this synergy works much more organically than with the other models, and let me clarify. The AT142 is a one-planar and one PCT driver configuration, and I have no complaints about the planar, which is excellent here, but the PCT was driving me crazy with its brightness. But in this combination with this deck, it works wonders, and that excessive brightness somehow disappeared, so even with the default titanium nozzles, it becomes quite listenable. And for example, let's take something energetic like Don't Stop Me Now by Queen, which no longer sounds overly shrill in either vocals or instruments, while still maintaining the precision, details and transitions of the high-end planar. So yes, I'm pretty happy how it sounds with the default ET142 settings. Okay guys, I leave the review link for these IEMs in the description below and in hit somewhere here, and in conclusion, for me the Hidizs AP30 is one of the boldest and most unusual audio player I ever seen in several years, which at first looks like a nostalgic console inspired by the Nintendo Game Boy, but behind that retro style there is a serious device with pretty solid specs. Okay, this combo of the Serious Logic CS43 198 and the RT6863 amp running on the Hidizs OS delivers a pretty honest, transparent and clean sound with a neutral tilt without overly bloated bass or intrusive treble, but simply plays the music as it is and does it especially well with equally neutral or planar IEMs and complex hybrid configuration. I mean, I've listened to a lot of models here, and in every situation this deck was able to fill that very missing piece, like, you know, adding the final puzzle to the big picture. But of course, there are also some drawbacks. There is no Wi-Fi, no streaming services, no supports for modern Bluetooth codecs, no huge output power, and extra feature like an ebook or Tetris are more like a nice bonus than a killer feature. So I'll give this deck an 8 out of 10, and in the end I wanted to add that if you're a fan of compact, old school devices and can get it for 75 or 83 US dollars for the plastic and metal version, then it's perfectly reasonable purchase with decent sound quality, battery life and modern features. However, let's be honest now, there is definitely room for improvement and upgrades, so in the near future, hopefully, we'll see the AP30 Gen 2 or something like that, and I'm sure it will happen, cause Hidizs always listening to a community. Alright, many thanks to the Hidizs team and to you guys for watching, and I'll leave a Kickstarter link in the description below the video, so go ahead and reserve it to get the best deal. And if you found this review helpful, then your likes and subs are the best way to show your support, and I'll always appreciate that. Take care, this was Iceberg, see you later, bye!